Hello everyone, today we're going to be analyzing the game between Manchester City and Borussia Dortmund that happened yesterday. So starting off with their formation, Manchester City had 4-2-3-1 and Borussia Dortmund started with 4-1-4-1. When Man City started with the possession, they had the usual system of having the 3-back, basically tucking Cancelo in the middle, allowing Gundogan to take the half space and Phil Foden to take the flank area. Similar situation on the right side as well. You got Kevin De Bruyne taking the half space and Mahrez hugging the touchline. So with Walker shifting, this is basically how they look like in possession. Now let's move this structure into Borussia Dortmund and see how it looks like. So in Borussia Dortmund's half, Man City in possession looks something like this in the first half. The problem with this for Man City is that the Dortmund wingers kept a pretty narrow position, which meant that it was hard for them to progress through the middle. For Borussia Dortmund, basically they defended with 4-1-4-1, and the center backs actually controlled their lines so that they didn't really give a lot of spaces in the pocket. That's what they really tried to stop Man City from doing, is give the ball to Kevin De Bruyne and allow him to progress forward, even on the other side as well. So you would often see the center backs come out of their line to pressurize these two players. The weakness of that was when the center backs came out to press, Phil Foden would make runs behind the defensive line and exploit the space there, and there was maybe a few instances where that was effective, but not so much. For Manchester City, what they had to worry about is obviously Erling Haaland and the midfield line. Because Borussia Dortmund had more players in this zone, when they lost the ball trying to progress down the centrally, Borussia Dortmund had numbers to try to transition. So most of Dortmund's attack came from transition, and that was what they wanted to do. Either play with the mid and using the wingers out wide to counter attack, or even play to Erling Haaland and then he can lay it off to other players and try to progress that way. So that was basically their motive. And we're going to look into how Borussia Dortmund played with possession. So for Man City, when they defended with 4-2-3-1. What was surprising is that they didn't press very high or with a lot of intensity. So when the two center backs of Dortmund had the ball, these two had a lot of time and space on them and was able to pick out players forward. Emre Can played in the center by himself. Now, he didn't have a good game that night, and so a lot of the balls didn't really touch his foot, but the center backs were able to pick out either Dahoud or Bellingham, and sometimes when Kevin De Bruyne or the number 10 role was pressurizing Emre Can, there was actually a gap to play Haaland. The first goal came actually from Emre Can making a mistake, and Mahrez intercepted. They progressed forward on transition, and Kevin De Bruyne ended up scoring. So that was the first half essentially. In the beginning of second half, Guardiola made changes when they had possession, which is that they actually kept a 4-2-3-1 structure even in possession. So Cancelo was tucked in the first half, but he wasn't very effective. So they wanted someone who's more clinical with his pass, which was Gundogan, and also put Cancelo in his position. So that made it 4-back rather than 3-back. Another advantage is that when the fullbacks were wide like this, the wingers of the Dortmund side had to actually get wider to stop these two players, and that would create more gaps in the middle for Man City to play. But it seemed like Dortmund didn't really take the bait. They still kept their line, especially in the middle, very tight, so it was hard for Man City to progress. Dortmund's goal came from a transition. One of the things that really worked for Dortmund was the long ball to the right fullback. So I think it was one of these players who tried to play to the fullback with the long ball. Phil Foden tracked back and booted the ball, but the clearance wasn't good. The ball came to Bellingham, to Dahoud. Erling Haaland dropped to receive the ball. One of the defenders followed him, and Royce made a very clever run. He got in between the fullback and the center back of Man City and ended up scoring. So it was 1-1 in the second half. Later on, I think it was around 85th minute. So Pep Guardiola had to make a drastic measure. So after being conceded, Dortmund changed their backline to 5, dropping another player in their defensive line. So that allowed City to put Gundogan up higher as well. They almost had like 5 players as top, so it looked almost like 3-2-5. The second goal from Man City came when Kevin De Bruyne gets the ball around this area, and this player was a little bit late on him. He was trying to basically block Kevin De Bruyne's right foot. At the same time, Gundogan made a clever run in the blind side, and Munier tracked back, but he was a little bit late on him, and Phil Foden made a darting run behind Gundogan. Gundogan laid it off to Phil Foden, and Phil Foden was able to capitalize. Amazing thing about this play, and especially from Kevin De Bruyne, is because he didn't use his right foot, he used his weaker foot and made almost a 25 odd yard pass that was perfectly placed to Gundogan's feet. So that was very, very impressive. Phil Foden had an amazing game, especially second half when he was playing on the left side. He was able to beat one-on-one situation, make clever decisions, using his strength and technique to wean off defenders and keep creating chances. And finally, at the brink of the final whistle, he was able to score that goal. There was a lot of controversies and drama happening within the game. Tactically, I would say this was how the game went. Definitely, I think Borussia Dortmund had some chances. The midfield of Man City, especially Rodri, Cancelo, and a little bit of Gundogan, they weren't at their best. But in the second leg, you never know what's gonna happen. Super excited about that. So for tomorrow, I'll be analyzing the game that happened today, which was Bayern versus PSG. So stay tuned for that. Thank you so much.